Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at a pretty fascinating pitch deck that tackles a frustration literally all of us have experienced: the universally hated, incredibly annoying soggy paper straw problem. I mean, we've all been there, right? You're halfway through an iced coffee or a smoothie, and suddenly your straw just completely collapses into this mushy, unusable mess, leaving you awkwardly trying to fish it out of your cup. It is so frustrating. But what if the solution to this everyday annoyance was actually hiding in the waste products of agriculture? Today, we're going to explore how turning discarded tea farm waste into a high-performance, genuinely sustainable alternative could finally mark the end of the soggy straw. It's a really cool look at how real-world problem-solving intersects with sustainability without ruining the consumer experience. So, right off the bat, we've got to ask a super fair question. Why do we even need another eco-friendly straw in the first place? Walk into any coffee shop today and you're already surrounded by alternatives. We've swapped out traditional plastics for a whole variety of green-sounding options. So as a consumer or even a business owner, you might be wondering why another product is even necessary when the market feels so saturated. Well, the answer, as we'll see, comes down to the simple fact that just being eco-friendly isn't enough if the product doesn't actually work for the person using it. Because, let's face it, current options kind of force us to compromise. Let's break it down. First up, paper straws. Their fatal flaw? They taste terrible. You often get that weird cardboard-like residue in your mouth while the thing rapidly turns to mush. Next, we have PLA, or bioplastics. While they definitely sound great on paper, their fatal flaw is they actually require industrial composting facilities to break down, which most of us just don't have access to. And finally, metal straws. Sure, they're reusable, but they're honestly kind of unhygienic and a total pain to clean properly on the inside. Basically, every current option makes the user sacrifice something, whether it's taste, convenience, or hygiene. Now, the breakthrough we're looking at here relies on something called true upcycling. We hear that buzzword thrown around a lot in marketing, but this is the real deal. They are taking literal agricultural waste, specifically the discarded stems and leftover residues straight from Taiwanese tea farms, and totally transforming it. They aren't just recycling something into a lesser, flimsier version of itself, they're taking farm waste that would otherwise literally just be thrown away and engineering it into a brand new, high-performance material. It is such a clever way to utilize the natural byproducts of an industry that already exists. And the whole thing builds into this beautifully simple three-step transformation process. First, they gather those discarded tea stems right from the farm. Second, they transform that raw agricultural residue through their manufacturing process. And third, boom, they create the new drinking vessel. I just love the poetic nature of this supply chain. You're basically taking the trash left over from making your morning brew and turning it right into the actual vessel you use to drink that morning brew. It's a perfect closed loop. But hey, when it comes to real-world performance, we've got to ask the hard questions. Does 100% natural just mean it's going to disintegrate in 5 minutes like all the others? Because let's be honest, as consumers, we've been burned by that all-natural label before. Usually it's just marketing code for a product that's going to fall apart in your drink before you even reach the bottom of the cup. If this tea fiber straw is actually going to replace plastic and paper, it has to survive the messy reality of how humans actually consume beverages. Well, here is the crucial point, and this is a massive upgrade: temperature durability. These things can easily withstand heat up to a scorching 90 degrees Celsius. That is practically the boiling point of water. This is exactly where the tea fiber straw completely separates itself from the pack. Because it handles liquids all the way from freezing cold straight up to 90 degrees, you aren't just limited to iced drinks. This is a game changer compared to current eco straws that completely warp or melt the second they touch anything warmer than ice water. And to back up that crazy heat resistance, let's talk longevity. 24 hours. Yep, you heard that right. They literally won't get soggy even after sitting in your cup for a full 24 hours. Just think about that for a second. You could buy an iced latte, leave it sitting on your desk for an entire day and night, and the straw would still be perfectly structurally sound the next morning. It completely eliminates the core frustration of paper straws. The structural integrity of this upcycled agricultural waste is honestly just astounding when you compare it to the mushy alternatives we're forced to use today. Plus, the health and safety metrics are just as impressive as the durability. Look at what it lacks. There's no PLA, no plasticizers, and absolutely zero toxic PFAS forever chemicals hiding inside it. Because it ditches all those toxic components, it easily passes strict safety regulations. But honestly, here's my absolute favorite detail. It actually gives off a natural tea aroma. Instead of tasting like wet newspaper, you get this subtle, pleasant scent of natural tea while you sip. It actually enhances your beverage experience rather than ruining it. Now, let's zoom out for a second and look at the macroeconomic impact. We have to ask, does the average person actually care about corporate ESG targets and carbon metrics? When you're standing in line at a cafe, are you thinking about the corporate environmental, social, and governance targets of the brand you're buying from? Actually, scratch that. I know you aren't. The average person just wants a beverage and a straw that works. But the mega corporations selling those beverages, they care deeply about these metrics. And that's exactly where the business strategy of this pitch deck becomes incredibly smart. You see, because the manufacturer of these tea fiber straws owns their entire supply chain, literally from gathering the stems to shipping the final product, they provide something massive corporations desperately need: guaranteed stable pricing and exact carbon reduction data for every single straw. In the business world, volatile pricing is a total nightmare. By controlling the whole process, they lock in price stability. And by meticulously tracking the upcycling from start to finish, they give businesses the exact hard data they need to prove to investors that they're reducing their carbon footprint. The real genius of this model is how it perfectly aligns corporate needs with what we, the consumers, actually want. Mega brands get exactly what they're after. They get to confidently brag about their carbon metrics and hit their sustainability targets using precise, backed-up data. But at the exact same time, they are finally serving you a straw that doesn't ruin your drink. It's a total win-win. The brand gets the green halo, and the customer gets a high-performance straw that lasts 24 hours, survives 90-degree heat, and smells faintly of natural tea. So I want to leave you with this final, really refreshing thought. Upcycling agricultural tea waste into carbon-reducing straws proves that saving the planet doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your sipping experience. True sustainability absolutely doesn't have to ruin your iced beverage. It really shows us that when we look closely at the waste we're already producing, like those discarded tea stems, we can engineer solutions that are actually better than the plastics we're trying to replace in the first place. It makes you wonder, what other everyday agricultural waste is just waiting out there to be transformed into our next essential tool? It is a fascinating question to ponder. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the world around you.